This episode is sponsored by the Slang Self-Doubt Prayer Journal. Over the past 4 years, I have had the opportunity to help over 30 women identify, accept, and take action in the parts of their lives where they feel stuck. My heart's desire is to do that with every woman I come in contact with, but the truth is that's not realistic. So instead, I created a prayer journal that goes through that same journey. The Slang Self-Doubt Prayer Journal is designed for you to dig deep and answer questions that will pull out where you are stuck on your journey. The Slang Self-Doubt Prayer Journal consists of 6 sections of journal prompts and areas for reflections for when you want to dig a little deeper and just take your thoughts to another level. Whether it takes you 6 weeks or 6 months to complete, I promise you will not regret it. Head on over to my website at www.feliciawallace.com and select the books tab to make your purchase. If you are ready to find your fears and slay them, go to www.feliciawallace.com, select books, and get your copy today. You're listening to the Slaying Self-Doubt podcast with Coach Felicia, where we empower Black women to overcome their doubts, fears, and insecurities in order to give birth to their God-given purpose. Join me and sometimes some of my friends on our journey as we remind you that you are not alone. I'm Felicia Wallace, and together we will find our fears and slay them. Welcome back to another episode of the Slaying Self-Doubt podcast. I am here with Arika Davenport from She Pursues Purpose. Good morning, Arika. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you are so welcome. So we spoke a little bit offline about how this was supposed to happen last year, but life just gets in the way. And so I'm so glad that we're going to have this conversation today, especially because I feel like that our what we both do is in alignment. So I know this is going to be a great conversation. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started?
Yes. Well, I'm Arika Davenport. I am a mother to 2 boys.
Boy mom, me too.
Yeah, boy mom. Yes. I've been married for, it'll be 10 years this year.
Oh, congratulations. You hitting the double digits, sis.
Ma'am. By the grace of God. Thank you, Jesus.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I started She Pursues Purpose. It really started as a personal journey. You know, I was just in a phase of, in my role as wife and in my role as mom and in my role as somebody else's employee, I kind of just lost who I was as an individual.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just went through this phase of saying, God, I know that there's more, you know, what's my purpose? I just kind of went on this personal development and growth journey. And ultimately, I birthed She Pursues Purpose because I realized that in my pursuit of my own purpose, that God had really been equipping me and preparing me to help women who was just like me, who knew there was more, who knew that outside of their roles as wife and mom and all these things that he had more. So that's how I birthed She Pursues Purpose.
Yes, I love that. I think it's it's very identical to how Slaying Self-Doubt started, except for the fact that I think I was already going through this journey. I didn't know what it was going to look like. And then God just was like, here you go. You're going to do this, you know, but it really, like you said, it really was me, like starting with ourselves. I think that is in anything that we're doing, especially when it's purposeful, like it has to start with you. If it does not start with you, the attachment to it is different, right? Like, right. Coming into this, I know how important it is for me to show up every day, to do what it is, because I'm clear that my obedience is connected to somebody else. And so doing that, you know, yes, everybody else who I'm impacting and being able to be in community with and all of those things, it's important. But really, I'm sure just like with you, like She Pursues Purpose, just like Slaying Self-Doubt is me, right? Like, and so I have to continue to do that thing in order to see it fully through. And so as you're kind of doing this and when you transitioned over, what did that look like for you before you actually got started into like impacting other people? What did that personal journey look like?
It was like highs and lows, right? Some days it looked like frustration, resentment, irritation. Other days it looked like me really being inspired by other women, like going to different events when there was a lot of events pre-COVID. So going to different events and being inspired and, you know, reading books and, you know, just really self-exploration, like what
Yeah.
do I like to do, what did I like to do before I was a mom and before I was a wife, and so
Yeah.
it really just started with personal development for me and really honing in on my relationship with God. Like, okay, God, I feel like First Corinthians 12 is what really shifted my prayers when he
Mm-hmm.
talked about the gifts and stuff. But then it's like I asked God one day, what is it that I can do for your people, right? And
Mm.
so I realized at that point, okay, I can do more than what I'm doing, but what is that? Like, I didn't
Yeah.
know what that was, you know what
Right.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it just kind of went like that. But I really just started, just really, I value education and learning. And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
where I centered myself, learning more about God, learning more just about the business realm, period, learning more about myself. And that's what, that's what the journey looked like before I even started the business.
Yeah. I love that because what you said was which you hear I've heard often in like sermons, like, God show me, right? Before you
Mm-hmm.
show me anything else, show me everybody else, because we quick to be like, they need to change, this need to be different, my job need to value. But if you show
Yes.
me, then I will show up differently in the same way that you said that was kind of my journey as well. Like, how do I didn't hate my job, but I knew I could be doing more. Like you said, it was like,
Mm-hmm.
how do you want me to show up? And so then when I changed, then the people around me changed. And then I
Mm-hmm.
realized, oh, okay, so this is it really is about me. And,
Yeah.
just showing my potential, my value, my worthiness, like that. I own that, right? And so just
Mm-hmm.
being able to change that. So that's good. Like, y'all, just for a note, it starts with you. It don't start with
Yeah.
nobody else. You got to
Right.
really take the time to understand, do your own self-awareness journey so that you
Mm-hmm.
know how you show up. So as you transition into all of this, how does self-doubt show up in your journey?
It showed up in a couple different ways. One, once I tapped into purpose, and I want to back up on something you said
Uh-huh.
because it's so important when you talked about, how you didn't hate your job, but you kind of knew that with that there was more.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I was. And as you were talking, you reminded me how I had to change my perspective, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like my job. And I knew that I wasn't even really called. It was a good job. It was a job I prayed for. But then there
Mm.
just came a time where it just wasn't fulfilling. And I knew that
Yes.
there was more. And I was ready to go for a long time. But then I realized I shifted my perspective. Like, you know what? I'm going to let this job work for me while I
Mm.
pursue my purpose. This
Yeah.
job is what's enabling me to figure me out. This job is what's allowing me to go to these conferences and do all of
Yeah.
these different things, So it changed my perspective on that note. But then my job is what allowed me to invest in my first mentor coach. Like Patrice Washington was my first
Oh,
mentor.
okay.
Yeah. And so again, just that self-development,
Yeah.
self-growth. And but by that time I kind of knew um that I was called to help women with purpose. And this
Mm.
is where the doubt showed up, right? This is where,
Mm.
because I started saying, like, first of all, how do you run a business about purpose? Like, this is not tangible. It ain't like, how do you do this?
Okay, you are speaking to my spirit right now. All right. Because people will tell you, as a side note, when you go to some of these coaching programs, some of these things, people will it almost like, well, what are you promising them? That's not a thing. And it's like, but actually it is.
Yeah.
Like, if you really know what it is, it actually is. And I would fight it so much, and I would be like, but why can't I just do the thing that God told me to do? This is what I'm trying to figure out, all these other avenues. And then eventually I had to say, you know what? Thanks for the tools that you've given me, but I'm gonna have to go to the source, because this
Yes.
right here, to your point, trying to teach people and get people to invest in you, to tell them something that you can't see, you can't
Yeah.
touch it, you
Yes.
can't take it to the bank.
It's
Like,
hard. It was a hard call. And that caused a lot of doubt for me. Like, and who am I to tell people about purpose? Like, who
yeah.
am I to do this? And it took a while for me to really grow confident and sure in it and understand that, if God's given it to you, there's definitely a way, right?
Yep.
Like, there's definitely a way, but it was just one of those things, like you said, it wasn't tangible, it wasn't visible. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm,
Like,
mm-hmm.
how do I do this? And so that's where I had to really like really just get clear on my identity in God, you know, and really trust what he gave me, and he would confirm it. Like we need that as we're going along and when we're starting out, you know what I'm saying? So people would say, oh, that post resonated with me or something like that. So he confirmed over and over, like, yes, this is what I want you to do. You know what I mean? And that helped to eventually alleviate the doubt that I experienced.
Yeah. And so I'm sure, like all of us, that when you go through it, when you're building something and you are really like, you start to see like, oh no, I can do this. Like, this is possible. I'm actually helping people. What are some practical tools that you can share with the audience of like how you continue to just show up when self-doubt comes in? Because as you level up, there's going to be this new self-doubt that be like, but wait a minute, I did that, but I don't know if I can do this. What do you do to kind of get yourself like to be able to push through that doubt? Did you hear that ad at the beginning of the show? If you're a business owner looking to expand your reach, you can promote your company or product with a host-read pre-roll or mid-roll ad by me on the Slaying Self-Doubt podcast. If you want more information, email info@FeliciaWallace.com. That's info@FeliciaWallace.com. Now, back to the show.
For me, it was my personal conviction, right? And my relationship with God, because like you said, it starts with us, but you quickly understand that it's not about you, right? It started with me, but I quickly understood like, this really ain't about me, right? Yeah. And because of my faith and my relationship with God, I serve him and I aim to please him. And so if he's telling me to do something, one of the things, I'm an introvert and I don't really like being on the front scene, but one of the things I really had to learn was to do it scared, to do it in spite of myself. Some people feel like, you know, you got to get rid of the fear in order to do it. And it's like, nah, I just did it with the fear, right? Like I just went on a live or did whatever it was with the fear. So I would encourage people to, you know, first of all, I think you have to know your why. When your why is bigger than you, it helps you to, you know, kind of pursue things that are uncomfortable and outside of what you're used to doing. If you don't know why you're doing it, it's easy to kind of not do it. You know, it's easy to procrastinate. It's easy to just push it over to the side. But once you get a why bigger than you, you know, once you attach your why to faith or attach your why to your legacy, your generation, it's like, okay, I'm not just doing this for me. If I could break through this, my kids won't have to go through what I went through, right? My family don't have to go through what I went through. And so once you understand it starts with you, but it's not about you, then you just have to literally take those baby steps and build momentum, right? If you're scared to go live, start with a post, start with a recorded video. It's just taking those baby steps to do the things that's bringing you outside of your comfort zone. And that's really what I had to do. You know, I had to learn that sloppy progress was still progress, because I also was a perfectionist, right? And so I wanted the pretty websites first. I wanted everything put together first. And my coach helped me to realize then, like, when you are serving people, like, they don't care about the website. If you got a message for them, if you got a product, if you got a service that's going to bring forth some solution, some joy, some alleviation of something, ain't nobody caring about that. So I really had to, you know, get over myself and get out of my head too.
Yeah, no, that's good. And that's also I don't think that it wasn't until part like 2 weeks ago I realized that I probably am a perfectionist because I wanted all the things first. Like you said, in my mind, what a perfectionist looked like, it didn't look like me. So I never I never associated myself with that. But I in doing this and pursuing, you know, slaying self-doubt and move, it's like, no, that does show up because I want all of these things before, because you feel like if all of these things are right, then I can do the next thing. But the reality is that no, do the thing and everything else will be right. It'll come to you. It will show up, but you have to do the action. And I love that you said like doing it scared. I know it sounds so cliche. Yesterday I did a live with somebody, and even when you said that, it made me think like, when I started this journey, I was like, oh, you would never see me on camera. Like it'll never happen because I had Bell's palsy 3 times. And so my insecurity was the
Wow.
fact that my face is crooked. No one else
Yeah.
notices it but me. So me being
Wow.
on a live, yeah, right. And now
Wow.
I'd be like, somebody asks, I'd be like, sure, I'll do it. But it was
Mm-hmm.
because I took that first step. And I said yesterday, take one step every day in the area of something that scares you. It doesn't matter
Mm-hmm.
what it is. If
Mm-hmm.
it's exercise and walk, if
Yeah.
it's if you don't want to walk, then do a video at home, do some yoga, do some stretching, do something that's just going to help, because it's a muscle. You got to build it. It's
Yes.
not, we're not,
Yes.
most of this stuff, we don't just have it. Like you have to build on it, and it has to become a
Exactly.
habit. And it just doesn't come to everyone naturally. But if it's something
Mm-hmm.
that you want to do, and like you said, if it's bigger, when you know your why and you know it's bigger than you, like I said earlier, if I know that my obedience is connected to somebody else, I don't know where that someone else is. Maybe that someone other person is on the other side of their life.
Yes.
Maybe there's
So
some person
true.
is at the gym or at the track or at the grocery store. So how
Yes.
you have to show up as yourself everywhere that you are,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't know who you're meant to impact. And so
That's right.
I love that you said you just do it scared, and you know,
Yeah.
and it's still, you're still scared.
You just do it.
You just
you
like,
just
it
you
doesn't.
just learn to do it. And I heard Pastor Mike Todd on a sermon or an interview or something, and I heard him say that discipline turns into desire. And I
Mm,
think that was so good. I resonated with that because the more disciplined you become in something, and your example with the gym or
yeah,
working out, even when you don't feel like doing it, the more discipline
yeah,
you get in it, you're eventually going to desire it. You're going
yeah.
to want, your body is going to say, hey, we
Winged
like
it,
this, right?
right?
Let's
Absolutely.
keep this up. And that's what I learned too. So some of the things that I wasn't comfortable with, some of the things that I had to, kind of push myself to do is no longer an issue. I like to do it. I see the
Yeah.
response to it,
Mm-hmm.
right? I see how it's helping people. I see how it make me feel, but it started off just as a discipline. Like, I know
Yeah.
this is what I need to do, so I'm just going to do it.
Absolutely. That's why I say with the lives, I dreaded them, and now I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
out here like, oh, okay, I'm gonna do a 4-part series with somebody. I'm
Girl.
like, now it's like I'm
Yeah.
back, y'all. And it's like before I was like, no, you ducking and
Yeah.
dodging it. So,
Mm-hmm.
what have you learned about yourself during this journey that you didn't know before?
What have I learned about myself? I've learned so much about myself, right? I think the biggest thing I learned though was like my personal values.
Mm,
I think when, you're so busy in your roles, you lose a lot, like if you're not careful. So
yeah.
in this personal journey, I've just learned how much I value certain things. Like I love to learn, right? I love, and I've been able to, I'm so studious and I'm such a student, it's just like I realized how my value of learning and education transpires into the clients that I coach, right? And into the things
Yeah.
that I do with my family. And so I think the biggest thing I've learned is what I value. I'm an advocate for therapy, right? I love sitting on the
Therapy
couch.
and
And
Jesus.
yes, ma'am. That's what I tell everybody. Like, I'm
Uh-huh.
convinced everybody needs therapy and I literally just said that yesterday, I think.
Yeah.
And so even there, I learned personal triggers, I've learned just about me in this
Yeah.
journey more than I ever have. Like, just my values with my fears, my everything. Like, it's just been a really great discovery of self.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think that when you are doing it the right way, right? When you are pursuing purpose, when you are intentional about saying, this is something that God gave me and that it's important to me, you will learn about yourself. Like that,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't learn anything about yourself, I can guarantee you're doing it wrong. Like, because that's the whole thing is that if he
Yeah.
it's not it is not from you, right? And so he's
Mm-hmm.
teaching you things, he's showing you things so
Mm-hmm.
that you can share it, because ultimately it's coming from him. So
Yes.
it's not yours to begin with. Like you said, we said
Mm-hmm.
earlier, it's not even yours. So what he's showing you is to perfect you so that you can reach the people that you're called to reach. And
Yep.
so being able to kind of go on this journey and being able to see that, I think is um you realize you're better for it all the way around. You show up
Mm-hmm.
as a mom differently, as a wife
Yes.
differently, as a friend differently. And in the beginning, for me, it was I don't know, it was a little awkward, right? Because I felt like some people were tiptoeing around me because it was like,
Mm-hmm.
can I say this? Are you this, that? And it's just like, there's this stigma always with Christians, like you can't
Yeah.
do certain things around.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm still me. I don't
Right.
really know
Right.
what it is.
Yeah.
But I also realized that was God pruning me, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
no, certain things is just not going to be in your space
Right.
because that may mess up what it is that I'm doing. So yeah, there's
Mm-hmm.
certain things you can't be around, but I'm still me. I'm just a
Yeah.
better version of me, which is what
Just a better
everybody
version. It's
wants.
the goal, right? It's the goal. And I think even with that, it was so important for me with the values because as I really realized who I was and what I liked, and because I'm in my purpose, it empowered me to set boundaries and it empowered me to, maybe have to walk away from some relationships where
Yeah.
I felt like, was no longer aligned. No love lost, it's just not aligned.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, that discovery itself is so important because of the call on your life, because,
Mm-hmm.
so it's like, I realize these are type of, I don't want to pursue this thing. I don't want to pursue this type of relationship because I know who I am now and I know
Yeah.
what I value, right? And so I think that's one of the biggest things, but it's still all working together because God is like, okay, some people, some things, some behaviors, some thoughts, it can't go with you, right?
Yeah.
And now that you value, these things, now that I'm showing you, it's like, okay, you have the courage, you have the you have everything you
Mm-hmm.
need to be able to say, okay, this is where I draw the line. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No, yeah, absolutely. And I think that what you say is like certain things just can't go with you. And there are
Mm-hmm.
times where we be trying to drag stuff like, come on, like
Yeah.
especially our friends and people that
Mm-hmm.
are just have been attached to us. But that is
Mm-hmm.
that season of your life. And I think I learned very quickly that I had been holding on to some people because I felt like I knew their potential. I knew that they could
Mm-hmm.
come on, let's, we gonna all slay ourselves out. And he was just like, nope. No,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
people just started to kind of fade to black on their own. It didn't even have to. I
Yes.
didn't even have to do anything, and I would
Mm-hmm.
question it, like, what did I do? What happened? And then I
Yeah. Yeah.
realized that's not you. You didn't do
It's not
anything,
you.
and
No.
on top of that, that sometimes your light is too much for people.
It is.
And when you
It.
get that enlightenment and your light is too much, everybody don't want to
Yeah.
be around that. So I just had to accept it. Okay, well.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true because I've just experienced that firsthand. But sometimes when the light in you, like you said, is so loud, it exposes or reminds people
Mm,
what they haven't done or
yes.
their insecurities, or it creates a conviction that they're not comfortable with. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not you at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes the way people view themselves, can have a direct impact on how they think you view them. And
Yeah.
so they just kind of fade away because of where you're at. And so I've definitely experienced that and resonate with that too. And it's just like it's still all working together. You can still love those people and pray for those people,
Yep.
but you get to a place where you understand that they're just not men.
Yeah.
You just have to obey and trust God to bring people who are more aligned with the purpose that He has for you.
Yeah. I've had the same similar situation recently as well. And I even had a client who had the same thing. And I was like, some people want you to stay where you are for their benefit because then
Mm-hmm.
they don't have to move. But when
Mm-hmm.
you start to elevate and they like, they either gonna try to bring you down because they're comfortable being in
Mm-hmm.
it, but some people they can't handle it and you got to go. But my prayers started to be different, and I started asking God, send me my people. Instead of
Yeah.
me trying to find out who the people is, you send me
Yes.
my people and make it
Yeah.
clear. I'm like, I don't want to have to second guess. It needs to be plain. Send it in an
That's
email,
right.
whatever you need to tell
Yeah.
me. I don't know whatever you need to do, I need to do. So I don't go down
Right.
this road again. I don't want none of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk about all things she pursues purpose. What do you offer? What do you do? And I have a question, but I'm gonna let you Share what you do first, and then I'm
Okay.
gonna ask the question.
Okay. So one of the main things that I do is coaching. That's the heart of, what I do. I help women to create businesses or build current businesses that are aligned with their purpose. And, in my time, I've just realized, you can have a successful business and not be in your purpose, right? Like you can
Facts.
make money and not make purpose. So my goal is to really help women to start businesses and build their businesses that's aligned with their gifting and aligned with their calling, and where they're not just making income, but they're making an impact in the world. They're doing the things that God has called them to do. So I take women on a journey to really, and it starts with the self, but we go through the process that I've went through, the personal process, the spiritual process, and the professional process to really get to where God will have them in this season. I do a prayer call every Thursday morning, 7:30 Eastern time, AM. But, and that's just where I feel like I have a business and a ministry, right? Because I understand it's not just about making the money,
Yeah.
God knows we need it, but at the same time, I understand who my CEO is and who I work for.
Yeah.
And so, I do a prayer line every Thursday morning. I have a published devotional journal, Prayers for Purpose. You can find that on Amazon. But yeah, those are just some of the things that I'm currently doing. I have other things, in the work, but right now my main focus is helping women. I feel like if we can all tap into our purpose and tap into the things God has called us to do and be, like, that's where we can really make a difference in people's lives in the world and give people reason to live and give hope. So I'm really passionate about coaching women.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So my question was going to be, because I'm sure that there are people who are listening who feel like I don't even know where to start. Right. Like we both said the same thing. Like, yeah, it's clear that we say, oh, I know I'm purpose for more. And it all sounds like what does that even mean? So if you could like break us down, so what purpose, like, I don't even want to say like that. If you can define it, I guess you can define like what purpose is, and then like what are some practical steps that people can take towards really figuring out what their purpose may be. If you've been listening to this podcast or following me on social media for a while and you're ready to start your journey to healing, or you're ready to confront your doubts and insecurities, there are 3 ways I can help. First, you can download the journal prompt from my website. Use this as a guide to get back on track with where God is calling you. Secondly, you can go to my website and purchase the Slaying Self-Doubt Prayer Journal. Using this prompt and journal will pull out where you are stuck on your journey. These questions will force you to dig deep and find your fears. Lastly, if you're ready to invest in your healing journey and work directly with me, book a 30-minute connection call with me today. This allows us to see if we are a good fit for each other. So head on over to my website, www.feliciawallace.com, to do one or all 3 of these. That's www.feliciawallace.com. Now, back to the show.
Purpose, I tell people in simple terms, purpose solves a problem. It's the reason why something exists, right?
Yeah.
And so we think about, I always give an example, something like your cell phone, right? The cell phone was a solution to problems with communication. Now we can talk to anybody anywhere. The reason something is existing, right? The reason something is created. So Apple decided, okay, there's this gap, there's this problem, and this is how we're going to fill it. And this is what I tell women, is that God has created you, to specific group or groups of people where you can solve a problem, right? And not all problems are bad. People kind of misinterpret that. Not all problems are bad, but it's still a solution. So you're born for a reason. Before he created you, he knew why. He knew where he wanted you to fit in at. He knew what group of people he wanted you to serve. And the journey that I really take women on when it comes to discovering purpose, I really have what I call 5 commandments to pursuing purpose. Okay. And it's kind of narrows it down and quickly for the sake of time, but I feel like these are the 5 steps you need to take in order to really get in alignment with the purpose that God has for you. And the first one is to know thy God. As a believer, I believe in order to know your God-given purpose, you have to know the God that gives the purpose.
Yeah.
And that's where I started, right? I started in prayer, like, God, what do you want me to do? What is my purpose?
Yeah.
So to me, that's the first step. And the second one is to know thyself. And that's all about the self-awareness, self-development, self-growth, digging with self, sitting on the couch, all the things self, right?
Yeah.
And then the third one to me is know thy neighbor, because I believe that purpose cannot be achieved in isolation. So you find yourself mentors, you find coaches, you find communities that's aligned with your values, aligned with your faith, aligned with the things that you're trying to do and where you're trying to be. Because Jesus had disciples, he could have did it by himself, right?
Facts.
But it's the importance to me, part of purpose is finding the right community. Like we said, some people got to fall off so new people can come in.
Yeah.
But it's really surrounding yourself and being intentional about being a part of community, being intentional about connecting with mentors and coaches who've been there, who can help you get there quicker, who can help you avoid those roadblocks and things like that. And then it's all about, my fourth one is planning thy work. So once you have been on this journey and things, like you just start somewhere. Who are some people that I have women go through this phase of really revisiting their childhood, who they are currently, because I feel like clues to your purpose are hidden in your childhood. Identifying your gifts. What are you good at? What makes you feel good? What do people come to you for? Because to me, the secret sauce to purpose is in your gifts. This is how you push it forth, is through your gifts. So you really need to work on, that's why you got to know yourself, right? What do I like to do? What am I good at? What do people come to me for? What group of people, based off my experiences and my stories, can I resonate with, right? Who can I help now with what I have now? Like, who could benefit from, what I have to offer, my experiences, my gifts, my talent? Who could benefit right now without me having to go get another degree or another website? Who can I help right now? You know what I'm saying? And then the last one is to work thy plan, execution. Do it scared, sloppy progress. Start somewhere, do something, grow as you go, but start. So that's, in a fast nutshell, what I kind of take women through for the process.
No, but that was amazing. Like, it literally was like, it was the process is, when you were saying it, I was like, yep, I did that. Yep, I did that. Like, because when you're in it, you, of course you don't know, because you're in the midst of it, right? This is the reason why coaches are so important. And I've had a conversation with my mental coach about, especially like us as Black women, like where are we? I'm like, we out here, but the problem is that in our, just like with therapy, in our culture, it's like very taboo about getting people in your business and all of those things. And the reality is that, like, that's what you need. I mean, you have coaches in sports, you have coaches in school, academic coaches. When you want to get better, you go to your guidance counselor. Like, there are coaches set up in our lives in different areas, even at work. Like, you have somebody that will help you along the way, that can really get you. So when you're trying to figure out this next phase, this, what you just described to people, is exactly what they need. That's a surefire way. Like, the to know God first, then to know yourself, then community, then to make a plan, and the Lord says, write the vision and make it plain. I mean, it's in there. And then execute it. Just like we talked about earlier, taking an action. You have to do an actionable step, because it's good to talk. We can read all the sermons, you can sign to all the courses, you can listen to all the music, you can read all the books, but if you take no action, it's a waste.
It's a waste.
It really is a waste. And so I love the way that you have created that, so it's very simple for people to. And the other thing I like about it is that every single thing is about the individual. This has nothing to do with anybody else outside of you. Have to know God. You have to know yourself. You have to know your neighbor. You have to create the plan. You have to execute. Everything is about you, instead of people being like, well, who can I get to do this? Who can I get to do it? You're looking in the wrong direction.
Or the big one, like, well, I'm just waiting on God. Like, no, ma'am. You don't get it back.
It's already there. And the thing about it is that when you start taking action in it, you don't realize that it's always been there. Once I got to a certain place, I was like, God was doing this in me when I was in my early 20s.
Yes, ma'am.
Like long before it even everything came together. When I look back over my life, I'm like, no, this was already in me. This was, and I was telling somebody yesterday that every time that we're, especially with everything that has gone on in this world in these last 2 years, if you are still here, you are purposeful more. Period.
Seriously.
Like we are still here because there is still work to be done. And so you cannot, we saw in an instant, people just going left and right over, I think what's the numbers, like over 700 or 800,000 Americans, like it's in terrible. 2 years. It's crazy. But if you were still here, you are purposeful more. And so that means you need to get connected to Arika so that you can figure out what your purpose is. So that you can get to work, sis. I need you to get to work. So Arika, how can the people find you? How can they get connected to you and the and your oh my gosh, 7:30 a.m.
the prayer call.
Yeah,
the purpose prayer line.
Because I was gonna say Bible study. No, that ain't it. I was the prayer call.
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram and Facebook as She Pursues Purpose. On Instagram, I have the link to everything for you to sign up for the prayer call. I offer free sessions, one-on-one sessions. We could talk about purpose, talk about how I can help you. I have the link on there. You can always email me at Arika, Arika, at shepursuespurpose.com. But yeah, you can definitely find me on social media. I post on my social media the phone number and the code to the call every Thursday. I also, for women entrepreneurs, I just created a free content planning guide. Nice. And so you could go to bit.ly/content for her and download that there. But everything that I have to offer is on my social media. You can also visit my website at shepursuespurpose.com as well, which is going to be revamped, but it's still up to.
Nice. Thank you so much, Arika. Those 5 tools that you gave us, y'all go back and listen so that you can write it down, or just book a call with Arika so you can just do the work. Okay. Because that's the other part. Sometimes you get this information, but being partnered with somebody who can walk you through it gives you the confidence to be able to do it. We are not meant to do life alone. And so if you need the help, reach out. That's what we be here for. Like, I don't, we here to help. So thank you so much, Arika. I will put all the information in the show notes. I really appreciate you just sharing and just continue to do what you do, because I know that I know that when we walk in purpose, like we already said it's bigger than us, but sometimes we don't recognize the impact that we are making because we're in it. But you are making an impact, and just thank you for your obedience.
Thank you for having me, sis. And the same
you are
for
so
you.
Welcome.
I'm just so glad to have connected with you and everything that you're doing, and I just know God is going to continue to bless and expand you as well. So thank you. And you're making just as much as an impact, for your obedience and transparency and, just doing it right. And I'm just, yes, girl. Yes.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I receive it.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, y'all, that's all for this week. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to share, subscribe, rate, and review. Remember to head over to Facebook and Instagram and follow me at Slaying Self-Doubt. Oh, wait, don't forget, go to my YouTube channel and watch this episode, and remember to press the subscribe button. Until next week, see ya.